I am NetMoverSitan. By the hat of Johnson and the grease paint of Cooper, there are some parts of France that have gone completely mad. And I can't believe I'm saying that, considering what I am. I mean, how is it that a 70% discount on a brand of chocolate hazelnut spread known as Nutella spark a riot that you'd expect more from Black Friday? I mean, they even had to call the police on that. And I'm not talking about one isolated area. I'm talking about areas scattered around France. I mean, you don't exactly hear about that in Australia over Vegemites. And yeah, they're quite big on that. I have some relatives in Australia. Well, it helps that the discount isn't ridiculously high. If that was the case, then we would have probably heard about something similar by now. I mean, do you know how ridiculous that sounds? Oh yeah, and I've completed Frambeau, which was not what I thought it would be. Let's just say that Tim Burton wouldn't be out of place there. With a number of twists and turns in the plot. And now I'm working on something different. Something which will probably be seen, well, it'll be sometime after Ori and the Blind Forest as I'll upload the first video of. In fact, the first video of it was compiled after... No, actually it was before I started this. Let's just say it will have similarities, but with a number of differences and a darker atmosphere. Well, since Super Hot Mind Control Delete isn't available for release yet, nor is Shovel Knight King of Cards, which has hints of Wario minus the garlic. I thought, why not that? In fact, I'll be doing some voice acting for that one. Well, there's not a lot of it to begin with, so I thought I'd add some of my own. With some dry humour sprinkled in. Yeah. And I've seen the trailer of the sequel to Ori and the Blind Forest, and yeah, glad I didn't watch that first, because that has a pretty obvious spoiler in it. Yeah, and you'd be surprised how easy it can be to miss just a little of it to not get 100%. And yes, that is a swamp. And swamps are where those blue flowers are located. Yeah, some things cannot be rapidly grown with bone meal. And I've just found some disturbing news. Let us just say that yet another wrestler is going into Hollywood. And can you guess which role this wrestler is going to be playing? Duke Nukem. A game series that has had its reputation well and truly trashed. Well, not helped by Gearbox. I mean, just look at Aliens Colonial Marines. That's one case of false advertising. And it's not helped by what I wouldn't be surprised to... Well, I wouldn't be surprised if it was true that... Well, it's someone who I consider the devil of Hollywood. Yeah, Michael Bay is directing it. That's right, Michael Pointless Explosions Bay. And then there's the fact that most video game movie adaptations often end up... Sorry, words have failed me. Often end up getting ruined. Mostly because Hollywood does what Hollywood does. And deviates quite a bit from the source material. I mean, just look at what they did with Doom. And I've played through almost all of the Doom series that Steam has available to buy and download. I mean, Doom is supposed to be where you fight demons and the legions of hell alone. Do you know what they did with the movie? They didn't make them demons. I mean, that was like what they tried to do with an American version of Fawlty Towers. trying to get rid of the one character that had the necessary instability. Basil Fawlty. I mean, that's like having a chicken vindaloo without rice, never mind poppadoms. Come to think of it, it's like having politicians and not having them being self-serving, backstabbing liars. Isn't it? Snakes in suits? Yeah. They had the right idea with that analogy, just got the animal bit wrong. They aren't snakes. No, not snakes at all. They're sharks in suits. Because when one of them smells blood, they turn on that individual. They can be their own worst enemies. They only support some people if it suits them. And are willing to sell others out just because they feel like it. Those who are feeling a bit chaotic. Those who want to do so for a reason, it's because they have some agenda that would make it beneficial to do that to them. And some people think the question, what is wrong with the world? If they even saw how they were acting, perhaps they might not ask that question because they'd already know it. And there are some of you thinking, and let's be honest, oh, lighten up. Well, that's the problem, lightening up. That's something that I find quite difficult. Yeah, surprising, I know. Oh yes, and what I'm doing here is building up the stronghold tower. This is hopefully where I can access the stronghold by digging downwards. And when I'm ready to do that, I'll make it an extra long episode of Minecraft Weekly World of Towers. And also make some preparations. Because I don't know what's down there, and I'll want some emergency medical supplies. Although I'll be saving the throwable health applies for the Wither. The reason for that is the Wither is undead, and the Wither is harmed by potions that heal, because they follow the more traditional rules of being undead, where that which heals the living is harmful to the undead. Yeah, it's something that works in certain Final Fantasy games, where the undead are at least if you try to heal them, they'll be damaged. Considering the Final Fantasy series is on Steam, you'd question why they didn't decide to, I don't know, release Chrono Trigger on Steam. I mean, they even released some of the more terrible, ultra-linear and badly written parts of the series. Let's see. Well, if I don't have enough to get all the way to the top, I have something to show you to make up the rest of the video. And don't worry, it'll be a good one. It'll be something that the completion of was a long time coming. Honestly, and not content with writing Undertale the musical, someone's making a start on Chrono Trigger the musical. Yeah, that's right. I mean, they even did the genocide path. And yeah, they found a workaround for one of the bosses, for obvious reasons. The hint for that one is David Bowie. And it wasn't what it was in the game, as in Big Overture, ridiculously small show. Much much like some of those of authority, isn't it? Where there's something bigger than what they have. And so they make up for it in other ways. As if they were compensating for something. As if they feel insecure. As if they need to justify themselves or some aspects of them to others. Where it's not a matter of convincing others, it's more a matter of convincing themselves. That's what they believe is the reality, rather than simply what they believe. And yeah, close, but not quite close enough. I'll do the rest of this tower off camera. Let's see, yeah, it's this way that the safe jumping off spot is. I mean, there's one dictator who does this with a ridiculously large flagpole. I mean, if you felt secure, you wouldn't be compensating with something like that. And then there's a certain palace in Romania that looks quite expensive to put together. Where its name is a contradiction in terms. Where what is supposed to be for the people is actually more for that dictator. Ah, there you are. Oh yes, and the dark web. It's not just a place where people can order narcotics, like others can order dietary supplements. It's also a place where people can watch videos or even images that's more tightly regulated parts of the internet would not allow. I mean, at worst it's things like pornography, although it also involves the torturing and killing of cute furry animals. Why would anyone do that other than sadistic pleasure? Something which has no place in a civilized society. Aghast. And there's nowhere to run or hide. gas tier. Really wanted a gas tier. Those are useful for making medical supplies. No matter. Time to head back to the first agricultural tower. I need to pop by there anyway for some potatoes. Oh yes, and some might find it hard to believe that fear and distrust can create a nation of manic xenophobes. But it can happen. And it's not something that's new. In fact, I've recently watched a documentary, along with some background research on a riot which was denied to be the case, but really was, due to racism. Where nations' armed forces during World War II was turned against its own people, fueled by biased media. Where it's at least full of half-truths, if not truly fake news. Rather than fake news. If you know what I mean. Yeah. Sad, isn't it? That some people find little reason to actively persecute certain groups. If it seems truthful, that's all that truly matters to them in the end, doesn't it? And it's other people who pay the price, and as for what you're seeing, it is the completed garden tower. Oh yes, and there was an inconsistency with the water flow. I'll be dealing with that at some point. It didn't look as it should be still in some places. And that was definitely not still. And now to go up the other way. And there are monsters here. Time for a little target practice! And that reminds me. I must get the machine I'm using an upgrade at some point. That way I'll probably see about playing Doom. And yeah, I did see that creeper. From what I know about that one, doing some voice acting, as in adding a bit of my own with that, will probably be a bit of fun. And there are one or two others as well, perhaps Dishonored 2. And apparently Corvo Tano in that one is voiced by the same voice actor as Garrett. As in Thief. As in what probably started the first-person stealth game genre. And I've played through that on the hardest difficulty. And on that, it's mission fail if you kill anyone. As in, no stabby. Yeah, that'll probably be the best one. As for Neo, not really sure about that one, which is essentially what appears to be a story loosely based on what someone I've heard the review about referred to as the first Weirdo. Yeah. That aside, it seems like it involves a loss of agility and good timing, something which is a problem for me. Until next time. Hail the Rabbit!